Fiancée thought her girl's trip was a secret, until I got the hotel footage. I canceled the wedding and sent the video to her parents. I'm Eric, 31, aerospace engineer for a defense contractor. I've been with Everly for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. Or was. She's 29, works in pharmaceutical sales, makes decent money, and until recently, I thought she was the one. We had the wedding planned for next spring, deposits down, her dress bought, the whole thing. 3 weeks ago, Everly tells me she's going on a girls' trip to Miami with her college friends, Ella, Tasha, and Kelly. I've met them all multiple times, been to their weddings, dinner parties, the works. Nothing unusual about the trip itself. They do this once a year. But something was off this time. First red flag, when I asked which hotel they were staying at, she got weird. Oh, Ella's handling all that. Okay, fair enough. But when I mentioned maybe sending flowers to the room as a surprise, she immediately shut it down. No, don't do that, we'll probably be out most of the time anyway. Second red flag, she was obsessive about her phone. Now, Everly's always been attached to that thing, but she started taking it into the bathroom, facing it down constantly, and I caught her deleting texts. When I asked who she was texting, she said it was work stuff. At 11 p.m. Third red flag, the packing. I walked in on her packing lingerie I'd never seen before. We're talking designer stuff, probably $500 worth of lace and silk. For a girls' trip? She laughed it off, said she and the girls were doing a confidence boost thing where they'd get dressed up and take photos. Sure. The morning she left, I drove her to the airport. Kissed her goodbye. Told her to have fun. Then I sat in my car for 20 minutes feeling like I'd just swallowed broken glass. Here's the thing about me, I trust my gut. It saved my ass in my career more times than I can count. When something feels wrong in a design, even if I can't articulate why, I dig until I find the flaw. Same principle applies here. I went home and did something I'm not proud of but don't regret. I logged into her laptop. She'd saved her passwords, thinking I didn't know how to access them. Found her credit card statements first. The group booking Ella supposedly handled? Everly had charged a suite at the Fontainebleau to her own card. $1,800 a night. For 3 nights. My hands were steady as I kept digging. Her email showed the reservation confirmation. 1 suite. 1 guest. No mention of anyone else. I sat back and considered my options. I could call her, confront her, demand answers. But what would that accomplish? She'd lie, gaslight me, maybe even flip it around and make me the bad guy for snooping. No. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I have a connection in Miami, a guy named Carlos who I served with briefly when I was in the Air Force before college. He works private security now, does work for high-end hotels. I called him, explained the situation. He said he couldn't get me footage directly, that would cost him his job. But he knew someone at the Fontainebleau who might help for the right price. $2,000. That's what it cost me to get access to the security footage from her floor. Worth every penny. The first night, she went up to her room alone at 11:47 p.m. At 12:23 a.m., a man joined her. Young guy, maybe 25, looked like a gym rat. He left at 3:15 a.m. The second night was worse. 2 different men, about an hour apart. The first arrived at 10:30 p.m., the second at 11:45 p.m. They both left around 2 a.m. Together. The third night, she must have been feeling bold. The footage shows her in the hallway, practically dragging some guy into her room while he grabbed her sauce. This one stayed until morning. I had Carlos's contact send me the clearest screenshots and video clips. Made sure you could see her face clearly. The timestamp. The hotel logo in the hallway. Undeniable. While she was still in Miami, texting me about how tired she was from all the shopping and beach time, I was busy. First, I called the wedding venue. Cancelled. Lost the $5,000 deposit. Didn't care. Called the catering company. Cancelled. Another $3,000 gone. Photographer, DJ, florist, all cancelled. In total, I ate about $11,000 in deposits. Best money I ever spent. Then came the hard part. Her parents. Harold and Diane are good people. Old school, religious, think their daughter walks on water. They paid for half the wedding. They deserve to know what their money was really funding. I created a new email account. Attached the footage and screenshots. Wrote a simple message. Your daughter is not who you think she is. This is from her girls' trip this week. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I sent it to them, to Ella, who I discovered wasn't even in Miami that week. She'd posted Instagram stories from her apartment, and to a few mutual friends who needed to know why the wedding was off. Then I waited. Update 1, posted 3 days later. The SHT storm started before her plane landed. Harold called me while Everly was still in the air. The man was sobbing. Actually sobbing. Kept saying this can't be real and there must be some explanation. I told him to look at the timestamps, look at her face. It was real. Diane, on the other hand, went full denial mode. Called me screaming that I'd doctored the footage, that I was trying to destroy her daughter out of jealousy. I stayed calm, told her to hire a forensic expert if she wanted. The footage would hold up because it was real. Here's where it gets interesting. Ella called me about an hour before Everly landed. Turns out, Everly had been using their annual girls' trip as cover for years. This wasn't the first time. Ella had suspected but never had proof. She'd actually stopped going 2 years ago because she felt uncomfortable with the lies. Eric, I wanted to tell you so many times, she said. But I didn't have proof and she's been my friend since middle school. I'm sorry. I asked her how many times this had happened. She said at least 3 that she knew of, possibly more. Meanwhile, I'd been getting texts from Everly all morning. Standard stuff, heading to the airport. Can't wait to see you. Missed you so much. I responded normally. Let her think everything was fine. Even sent her a heart emoji. Her flight landed at 4:35 p.m. I know because she texted me that she'd landed. What she didn't know was that Harold and Diane were waiting for her at baggage claim. The confrontation was brutal. Harold told me later that she went through the full narcissist's prayer in real time. That didn't happen, the footage is fake. And if it did, it wasn't that bad, they were just friends. And if it was, that's not a big deal, lots of people have hall passes. And if it is, that's not my fault, I was drunk. And if it was, I didn't mean it, it meant nothing. And if I did, you deserved it. Eric was emotionally distant. That last one is my favorite. Emotionally distant. I was planning our future while she was getting railed by random guys in Miami. She tried calling me 47 times that night. I didn't answer once. She sent probably 200 texts, ranging from please let me explain to you're overreacting to you vindictive idiot to I'll KL myself if you don't answer. I screenshot everything. Especially the SCD threats. Those went straight to her parents and mine, just in case she tried anything stupid. By that evening, the news had spread through our social circle. Her phone was apparently blowing up with messages from people who'd seen the footage. She showed up at my apartment around 10 p.m., hammering on the door, screaming. Eric. I know you're in there. Please, just talk to me. It's not what it looks like. My neighbor threatened to call the cops. She finally left after an hour. The next morning, I got a call from her work. Apparently, she'd listed me as her emergency contact, and she hadn't shown up for an important client presentation. They wanted to know if everything was okay. She's dealing with some personal issues, I said. You might want to find coverage for her accounts for the next few weeks. Professional, but just enough subtext to let them know something was seriously wrong. Update 2, posted 5 days after the first update. The last few days have been a masterclass in watching someone's life implode through their own actions. Everly has tried everything. She hired a lawyer to send me a cease and desist letter about sharing revenge P. My lawyer, yes, I immediately hired one, responded that security footage from a public hotel hallway doesn't constitute revenge P, and that I hadn't actually shared anything, an anonymous source had. Good luck proving otherwise. She tried getting her flying monkeys involved. Her sister Caitlin called me, trying to guilt-trip me about ruining Everly's life over a mistake. I asked her if she'd seen the footage. She said yes. I asked her to count how many mistakes were in it. She hung up. Her mom Diane has gone from denial to damage control. She called asking me to be the bigger person and not share the footage with anyone else. I told her I hadn't shared it with anyone to begin with, but that whoever did probably had good reasons. She offered to pay me back for the wedding deposits if I called off the dogs. I told her to keep her money, I didn't want anything from their family. But here's the best part. Remember how I said Everly works in pharmaceutical sales? Well, her company has a pretty strict morality clause. Something about representing the company values at all times. Guess whose regional manager got an anonymous tip about a sales rep's recent behavior in Miami? She was put on administrative leave pending an investigation. In her industry, that's basically a death sentence. Even if they don't fire her, every competitor will know why she left. My brother Wesley came over last night with beer and pizza. He's been my rock through this. You know what the effed up part is? I told him. I keep thinking about all the times she accused me of being paranoid. Anytime I questioned something that felt off, she'd make me feel like I was being controlling or insecure. Gaslighting 101, he said. Make the victim doubt their own instincts. He's right. Looking back, there were so many red flags I explained away. The way she'd guard her phone but demand full access to mine. The work conferences that always seemed to be in Vegas or Miami. The sudden interest in fitness and expensive lingerie about a year ago. The way she'd pick fights before trips, probably to justify her behavior. I also found out through the grapevine that this Miami trip wasn't even the worst of it. One of her coworkers reached out to me privately. Turns out, those pharmaceutical conferences she attended? She'd been hooking up with doctors and other reps for years. It was apparently an open secret in her industry. I thought you knew and were just okay with it, the coworker said. She made it seem like you had an arrangement. An arrangement? My fiancée was telling people we had an open relationship while I was at home planning our wedding seating chart. The woman I thought I knew never existed. She was a character, a performance. The real Everly is someone who could look me in the eyes, tell me she loved me, then go F strangers for thrills. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful. Grateful I found out before the wedding. Grateful I trusted my instincts. Grateful I had the resources and connections to get proof. Because without that footage, she would have gaslit me into thinking I was crazy. She would have married me, taken half my assets and the inevitable divorce, probably while effing whoever she wanted on the side. Instead, she's facing the consequences of her actions for probably the first time in her life. Update 3, posted 4 days after the second update. Things have escalated in ways I didn't anticipate. Everly showed up at my work yesterday. Full makeup, dress I bought her for her birthday, trying to look like the victim. Security stopped her at the front desk, but she caused enough of a scene that my boss had to get involved. She was crying, telling anyone who would listen that I had ruined her life over a misunderstanding and that she just needed 5 minutes to explain. My boss, who's a no-nonsense former Marine, took one look at the situation and had security escort her out. He called me into his office after. I don't need to know the details, he said. But if this affects your work or brings drama to this office again, we're going to have a different conversation. Fair enough. I apologized, assured him it wouldn't happen again, and filed a police report for harassment on my lunch break. That night, the real bomb dropped. Harold called me. He'd hired a private investigator to look into his daughter's activities. Not just Miami, but going back years. What they found was worse than either of us imagined. Eric, she's been living a double life since before you met her, he said, his voice hollow. There are credit cards we didn't know about, maxed out. She's been financing these trips with debt. The investigator found escort websites where she's advertised. I had to sit down. Escort websites? She wasn't just cheating. She was selling herself. The men in Miami? They probably paid her. Everything clicked into place. The expensive tastes despite her salary. The designer bags and shoes. The way she always had cash despite her credit cards being maxed out. I'd assumed her parents helped her out, or she had bonuses I didn't know about. My fiancée was a part-time P-toot. Harold sent me the PI's preliminary report. There she was on multiple sugar baby websites, using fake names but real photos. Photos I'd taken of her, actually. Our vacation to Cabo, our anniversary dinner, she'd cropped me out and used them to advertise herself. The rates she was charging would make you sick. The reviews from her clients made me actually vomit. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. Then I did something petty but necessary. I sent it all to her employer's corporate headquarters. Not the regional manager, but the chief compliance officer. Within 24 hours, she was terminated. No investigation, no administrative leave. Immediate termination with cause. That's when she really lost it. The texts came in a flood. You've destroyed everything. My career is gone. I have $30,000 in debt you didn't know about. My parents won't even look at me. I'll be homeless because of you. I hope you're happy knowing you've ruined my entire life. I did what I had to do to survive. You never understood the pressure I was under. Those men meant nothing. You're the one I loved. Please, Eric, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll sign a prenup. I'll go to therapy. I'll give you all my passwords. You win, okay? You win. Just please stop. I have nothing left. That last one almost got to me. Almost. Then I remembered the video of her in that hotel hallway, laughing as she led that stranger to our bed. Not technically our bed, but the bed she should have been sleeping in alone while thinking of our future together. Wesley came over again, worried I might be wavering. She has nothing left because she threw everything away, he said. You didn't do this to her. You just stopped her from doing it to you. He's right. But there's more. Ella reached out again with information that changes everything. She sent me screenshots from a group chat Everly had with some other women in her industry. They were laughing about their civilian boyfriends, their term for the men they actually dated while escorting. There I was, referred to as my civilian like I was some kind of joke. They shared tips on how to keep us in the dark, how to explain away inconsistencies, how to fake emotional connection. One message from Everly stood out: mine's about to propose. Once we're married, I'll have the stability to be pickier with clients. Maybe only do it a few times a year for big payouts. He'll never know. She was planning to marry me as a cover for her escort lifestyle. I wasn't her fiancé. I was her retirement plan. Update 4, posted 6 days after the third update. This will probably be my last update for a while. Maybe ever. I need to move on from this. Everly is gone. I don't mean dead, I mean she's left the state. After her parents cut her off completely and her career in pharma became radioactive, she had no choice. Last I heard from Harold, she was heading to Nevada. Vegas, probably. Seems fitting. Before she left, she sent me one final email. My lawyer advised me not to read it, but I did anyway. It was long, rambling, and full of attempts to rewrite history. She claimed I drove her to escorting because I was emotionally unavailable and obsessed with work. She said I never really loved her, just the idea of her. That I was controlling and jealous and she needed to feel free. The projection was almost impressive. But buried in all the blame shifting was one admission that actually seemed genuine. I've been doing this since I was 22. Before we met. Before anyone. I don't know how to stop. 7 years. She'd been living this double life for 7 years. Through college, through relationships, through our entire time together. It wasn't about me at all. I was just the latest mark in a long con she was running on herself. Harold and Diane are divorcing. That's the collateral damage nobody talks about in these situations. Diane couldn't accept what her daughter had become and blamed Harold for hiring the pie. Harold couldn't forgive Diane for enabling Everly's behavior for years. Their 33-year marriage, destroyed by their daughter's lies. Harold sent me a check for $15,000, their half of the wedding deposits plus some extra for pain and suffering. I sent it back. I don't want their money. I make good money, and those deposits were the cost of education. Expensive education, but education nonetheless. My company has been understanding. My boss pulled me aside last week and said, everyone's got their SHT. You handled yours like a professional. We're good. Even got assigned to a new project that'll have me traveling for the next few months. Perfect timing. But here's the thing that still F's with me, I loved her. Or I loved who I thought she was. I keep having to remind myself that the woman I proposed to never existed. She was a character, performed by someone I never really knew. My therapist, yes, I started seeing one, says this is normal. That I'm grieving the death of someone who never lived. It's a mind F when you think about it. People keep asking if I regret how I handled it. If I feel bad about destroying her life so thoroughly. No. I regret not seeing the signs sooner. I regret the 4 years I wasted. I regret every I love you I said to someone who was laughing about me in group chats with other escorts. But destroying her carefully constructed lie of a life? That was justice. She made her choices. I just made sure everyone could see them. The thing about trust is that once it's broken forever. You can glue a shattered vase back together, but you'll always see the cracks. Even if I could forgive her, which I can and won't, I'd never be able to look at her without seeing those men walking into that hotel room. Some of my friends think I went too far. That I should have just walked away quietly. Let her keep her secrets and her job and her family's respect. Been the bigger person. F that. Being the bigger person is what marks do. It's what civilians do while they're being played. She counted on me being the bigger person. Counted on my ego not being able to handle the public humiliation of a failed engagement. Counted on me keeping her secrets like a good little civilian. Instead, I burned it all down. And I'd do it again. Final update, posted 3 weeks after the last update. I wasn't going to update again, but something happened that feels like closure, and I figured I owed the people who've been following this story an ending. I'm in Houston for work, Been here 2 weeks. The project is going well, and being in a different city has helped clear my head. I've even been on a couple of dates, nothing serious, just testing the waters. Turns out dating when you're not being actively gaslit is actually enjoyable. Who knew? Yesterday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Usually, I don't answer those, but something made me pick up. It was a detective from Las Vegas PD. Everly had listed me as her emergency contact when she was arrested. Possession and possession of cocaine. The detective was just doing due diligence, trying to reach next of kin. I'm not her next of kin, I told him. We're not together anymore. Her parents are Harold and Diane, last name. Here's their number. The detective thanked me and was about to hang up when he said something that stopped me cold. This isn't her first arrest here. Did you know she had a record in Nevada? I didn't. The PI Harold hired had been thorough, but apparently not thorough enough. Or maybe Everly had been using fake names longer than we thought. After the call, I sat in my hotel room for a long time. I thought I'd feel something, vindication, sadness, maybe even pity. But I felt nothing. She's a stranger to me now. A stranger who happens to know my middle name and how I take my coffee. Harold called me an hour later. He'd gotten the call from the detective. He was crying again, but it was different this time. Resigned rather than shocked. We've lost her, Eric. Our daughter is gone. I'm sorry, Harold. Are you? Really? I thought about it. Yeah. I'm sorry the person we both thought she was never existed. He was quiet for a moment. Take care of yourself, son. It was the last conversation we'll ever have, and we both knew it. I found out through social media that my ex-best friend from college got engaged last week. 3 years ago, I'd have been his best man. But Everly had effed him during one of her work trips 2 years into our relationship. I only found out after everything exploded. He reached out to apologize, said she'd told him we were broken up at the time. I didn't forgive him. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. But it made me realize how much damage one person can do, how many lives they can poison with their lies. Everly wasn't just cheating on me. She was corrupting everything and everyone around us. The friends who knew and said nothing. The ones who participated. The ones who found out later and had to live with the guilt. My therapist says I'm making good progress. That my anger is justified, but I can't let it define me. She's right, of course. But it's hard not to be angry when you realize how thoroughly you were played. I've changed a lot since this started. I'm less trusting, sure, but also more observant. I listen to my gut now, without apology. When something feels off, I investigate. No more giving people the benefit of the doubt when they haven't earned it. Some people say that makes me cynical. I say it makes me smart. There's a woman on my project team here in Houston. Smart, funny, calls me on my BS. We've grabbed drinks a few times. Nothing romantic yet, but there's potential. The difference is, now I know what to look for. The red flags that aren't really that subtle when you're paying attention. She knows about Everly. Not all the details, but enough. She said something the other night that stuck with me. You know what the difference is between you and her? You can look at yourself in the mirror. She never could. That's why she needed all those others to look at her. Maybe she's right. Maybe Everly's whole life was just an elaborate performance because she couldn't stand who she really was. Maybe the escorting, the cheating, the lies, it was all just noise to drown out the silence of her empty existence. Or maybe she's just a narcissistic piece of SHT who got off on deceiving people. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I'm flying back home next week. Already apartment hunting, can't stay in the place we shared. Too many ghosts. Found a nice place downtown, closer to work, with a view of the mountains. Fresh start. The wedding would have been in 3 months. On that day, instead of marrying a woman who never existed, I'll be in Colorado, hiking with Wesley and some friends. We're calling it the Dodged a Bullet Celebration Tour. People keep asking if I've forgiven her. The answer is no. And I never will. Forgiveness is for people who are sorry, who want to change, who recognize the harm they've caused. Everly is none of those things. Even in her final email, she was still playing the victim, still rewriting history to make herself the hero of her own tragedy. But I've moved past hate. Hate requires emotional investment, and she's not worth it anymore. She's just a cautionary tale now, a reminder that some people are exactly who they show you they are, you just have to be willing to look. The footage from that Miami hotel is still on my laptop. I haven't watched it since the first time. Don't need to. But I keep it as insurance, In case she ever tries to come back, tries to rewrite history again. She won't, though. Narcissists like Everly don't return to scenes of their failures. They find new marks, new civilians to con. Some poor tart in Vegas is probably falling for her act right now, thinking he's found the one. I hope he's smarter than I was. But he probably isn't. None of us ever are, until we have to be. That's the real lesson here. Not that people will betray you, that's a given. The lesson is that when someone shows you who they really are, when your gut tells you something's wrong, when the red flags are waving, you listen. You investigate. You protect yourself. And when you find out the truth, you don't quietly walk away and let them continue their destruction. You burn their world down and salt the earth behind you. Some people call that vindictive. I call it justice. Either way, I'm free. And she's exactly where she deserves to be, alone, exposed, and facing the consequences of her choices for the first time in her life. I won. Not because I destroyed her, but because I saved myself. That's my story. Thanks for listening. Edit, for everyone asking, yes, I got tested. Full panel, twice. All clean, thank God. That was actually one of my first moves after seeing the footage. If you find yourself in a similar situation, get tested immediately. Your health is more important than your pride. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.